Hello there, my name's Jan from JB Crafts and I'm back again today with another tutorial in my colour theory series. So I've done several of these now and they've been very popular. It is just literally trying to simplify the colour theory, the colour wheel, in a manner that we can actually apply it to our crafting. So whether you're a card maker, a scrapbooker, however you like to paper craft, it usually involves colour. So we've just been going through the different ideas around colour theory, and if you've just stumbled across this particular video, there are several others that I've already filmed that are on my channel. It may be worth, if it's something you're interested in, it may be worthwhile going back and having a look at those. So yeah, I'm not going to recap everything that we've done previously, but I will touch on certain elements of it. So yeah, we're actually going to bring in a new theme today. But just before I do that, just catch up with where we got to with some of the definitions and things like that. We talked last week about doing a split complementary colour. This is the card that we made last week on the last video. And we did split complementary, being a main focal colour, which was my blue here. And then when we split it, if I move this back round to the blue, I think I had it on the violet blue there, so that was my main colour. And then when you actually come to your complementary colour, the complementary colour would have been yellow orange, and when we split it, we went either side of it and we landed on the orange and the orange yellow, which brought in that series of colours. So that's where we left it last week. I'm going to bring in another theme this week, but just to re-go over a couple of the definitions, and I'm going to bring in a new one as well for you this week. So we have talked about tints of colour. A tint being just purely that main hue, that pure colour, and then adding white to it. And you can see as you come down to the centre of the wheel, it just gets lighter and lighter. So with the yellows, if I put it on the pure yellow, you can see that eventually you're going to get to those cream shades with the yellows. I use this predominantly with the primary colour red because I'm not a red person. It has its places. So, you know, for things like poppies and valentines, I will use red, but more often than not, I go into the tint of red, which are all your shades of pink. It's my favourite colour to work with paper crafting, and I have to stop myself from reaching for those pinks every time. I could work with them every time, but just by adding white to your red or your primary colour there, you're going to get those beautiful shades of pink. So I'm actually, the sample that I've got for you today actually lands on the yellow. And again, I have incorporated the cream as well in that one. So we've talked about the tint there. The new definition that I'm going to bring in today is the value of a colour, because that sort of coincides with what we're doing today. The value of it just purely means how light or dark a colour is. So on the pure colour, you've got a slightly darker version. As you come down the tint of it, you're getting a lighter version. So the value of a colour just means how much depth there is to it, how much light there is to it. That's all it is. And then on previous videos, we started out with the 3 primary colours, we covered the 3 secondary colours, we went on to tertiary colours, being the colours that are between. So for example, if I just spin this round a little bit, you've got primary red and orange, a secondary colour. The tertiary colours are the one in between. Again, if I move it this way, we've got primary yellow with orange. The tertiary colours are the ones that land in between. We've also looked at complementary colours, being the colours that fall opposite each other on the wheel. So a prime example of that is the red and green that you see so much over the Christmas period. We've also looked at split complementary colours, which is what I started out showing you from last week. So I chose the blue as my main colour and split it alongside its complementary colour to get the split. And then this week we're going to bring in one of my favourite themes. It's something that I do an awful lot when I'm crafting, and that's go on a monochrome colour palette. So monochromatic colours are shades of the same colour basically. So it's one single colour, and my sample that I've done today falls into this yellow or orange yellow bracket here. And it is just shades of that one colour. So we started here, coming all the way down and even incorporating the cream there. So you know, if you want to think about this in more simplistic terms, a perfect monochromatic colour scheme would be something like a garden. If you think about all the different greens in nature, you've got a whole spectrum of them, just literally all, you know, living side by side, giving you that monochromatic theme. So the card that I actually made, I chose the yellows. You can see here, this is what we're actually going to be creating today. And I sort of chose yellows for this one. I'm going to recreate it in a different colour during the tutorial just to give you some options. But I had a look here on the wheel. I've used my oxides, my distress oxides, to make the background, and I'm going to show you how to do that today. And I sort of had a look at the wheel and brought in a couple that fit the description. And again, just looking at these, onto this part here, I've got scattered straw and I used fossilized amber. So both of those fit that lovely orange yellow bracket, and that's what I used to create my background here. So there was some mopping up of ink in the first place, and then I've stamped on it with the slightly darker ink. I've got some text, some script stamp, I've got some ink splodges on there, and then I just wanted, when I actually cut my panels up, I wanted to outline them, and I actually flicked over to my Spectrum Noir inks here. The opaque pigment inks have a lovely sponge surface, so they're great for just doing the edging, and I chose that Honey Pot one, which is still in that nice warm colour family of yellow colours there. So that was for the sample. What I'm actually going to do today is I'm going to sort of move it round slightly to the green yellow. So we're actually going to work in this section here, and I'm going to do the same design, but I'm actually going to bring in some of my green ink. So again, we're looking in this one, that monochromatic theme, all different shades of that tone, and I've gone for my Twisted Citron and Shabby Shutters in the Distress Oxides again, and that's what we're going to use to create our background. And then I've done exactly the same. I've popped over to the Spectrum Noir opaque pigment inks, and I've got Grasshopper that I'm going to use to just do a little bit of edging for that tone on tone feel. So let's pop that to one side. We'll pop that out of the way for a second. I don't need that straight away. I'm going to bring in my mat again just to protect my surface, and we'll pop the card to one side there. And I'm going to bring in some of the pieces that I need to start creating the design. So this one's actually done on a 7.5 by 5.5 inch card blank again, which is made, as I often do, from my smooth white cardstock. So 11 inches by 7.5, and just scored it down the centre. So that's my card blank. I did bring in one sort of colour to contrast with, which is a neutral colour. I didn't want to introduce another colour from the wheel. Brown doesn't appear on the colour wheel. We'll talk about that in future videos. But I just wanted something as a slight contrast that stayed in that sort of warm tones. So I've actually used craft card here, and that's what I'm going to use with the greens as well, just to keep it neutral as possible. So I've actually got a piece of craft card for my matte layer. So this one's going to sit on top of here, and this one measures 7 1/8 by 5 1/8. So that's going to go straight on top of here. And then I'm going to pick that green up by bringing in a green matte layer as well. So I've got that same sort of tone, that yellow green, to just leave a tiny, tiny little border around the craft card. So this one's not much smaller at all. I've just gone down to 7 by 5 inches, and we're going to mat all these three together. I'll do that in a second. And then I've actually got a couple more pieces. I'm going to work on smooth white cardstock. We're going to do our inking onto here. This one's 6.5 by 4.5. And then I'm actually, once this is coloured, I'm going to drop it onto a piece of cream cardstock, and that one's going to sit nicely in there. So these all mat together nicely. You can see there we've just got that different gradient of mats and layers. The cream one, just for those of you that are interested in the sizes, is 6 3/4 by 4 3/4. So what I'm going to do just before we get started is just pop these two layers together and then put them to one side to dry while we do the inking. So I've got my first piece, which was the craft card. I'm using my all-purpose glue again. It's my go-to glue for anything that's just cardstock to cardstock. Pop it on, wriggle it into place, and that's just got that nice border around the outside. And then I'm going to do the same with that green piece. Now, if you wanted to take parts of the centres out of these cards, you could, if you want to save any of your card. I haven't done at the moment because I've got so much stock of card that I do need to work my way through it. Having that wet glue as well just allows you to sort of move everything into place and make sure that you're happy with the alignment before you commit to that actual stick. So we'll pop that to one side, and then the other layer is going to go on top of here when we've done the inking. So I'll just leave that over to one side for a second now. Find a little place to put that. And then we're going to work onto our mat with that piece of smooth white cardstock. So I've actually got my heat tool handy here at the side of me because I will need to dry this as we go along. And I'm going to use those 2 greens from the Distress Oxide range in conjunction with some water. So I've just got water in my spritzer here. So we'll start off with the sort of lighter one of the 2. And all I'm going to do is pop this directly onto my mat here. So this is the Twisted Citron, and I am just going to pop it generous amount onto the mat, and then I'm just going to spritz it with some water. Because these react beautifully with the water, we're just going to wake them up kind of thing, and you can see how it's all started beading there on the surface. And then I'm going to take the side that I want to work on of my cardstock and literally dip it into that ink. Just look at that. It is absolutely beautiful colour, this. So again, all I want is some definition on that card. So just mopping up the ink in places, and then once you're happy with what you've got here, just pop it to one side, and I'm going to bring in my heat tool just to set that ink. So if I continue to keep mopping up the ink, it's just going to get more and more of a puddle. And the beauty of the oxide inks is that they will layer on top of each other. So it doesn't have to be perfectly dry, but you don't want any sort of puddles of water on the surface of the card. And then I'm just going to give this a little bit more of a spritz to make it go a bit further, and then we can actually go straight over the top again, and this will layer on top of what I've already done, just to use up some of that ink and not waste it. And it's knowing when to step away. So I'm quite happy with that. Now I'm just going to give that a blast again. Just make sure that it's taken all that sort of main water from the top of it, because we're going to continue with a second colour now. So I'm going to just take this off here. If you have extra card, you could mop up what's left of the ink, but just for the purpose of the video, I'm actually just going to clean it off with my cloth. And then I'm going to bring in the second colour, so the Shabby Shutters. So very, very similar shades. And again, I just want to create that sort of monochromatic look with the inks to start off with. So we're going to do the same again. We're going to spritz it with some water. And I'm going to be a little bit more careful this time. I've got quite a white area here, so we'll dip that bit in first and see if we can get some of that other tone over the top. There's not a massive difference in colour, but I'm okay with that. I just wanted to create a little bit of differential. And again, keep that heating process in between, just to dry those areas that you've already picked up, and then that ink will layer over itself. That's the beauty. This is why I love the oxide inks so much. You can do such a lot with them, but I just love this layering. And you can see now that's dry, that we've got these areas of darker, slightly darker green. It's not too dark. Again, I'm just going to add a little bit more water there. I want some up in that top corner and some down in that bottom corner there. And I think I'm quite happy with that, because I'm going to do some more work over the top of it with the script stamp and that little ink splodge. So we'll just make sure that this is dry. Now I've just got some areas that have got water still sitting on the surface of the card. So before I do any stamping, I just want to make sure that those are dry. Doesn't have to be perfectly dry, but I don't want to stamp into the water there. And then we'll give that a clean again, just to get rid of the excess. And then I'm going to bring in my stamp. That one doesn't want to clean up, does it? Look, there it is. Get rid of all that. Okay, so I think we can probably get rid of the mat now. And I'm going to bring in my stamping platform. And I'm literally, and you can see where I've been playing with this. Let's see if that other side's a bit better. There we go. It's not quite as much on that side. Okay, and what I'm going to do is pop this in here. And I'm going to continue to stamp with the oxide ink over the top. I want to build up those layers. So you can manipulate that card if it has warped a little bit. Whenever you apply heat, that cardstock will always warp. There's no two ways about it. Now I've actually got a really nice block script stamp, and this is from Creative Expressions. It's called French Script. I can't read French, so I don't know what it says. Designed by Sam Poole, and it's a rubber stamp here. So I am just going to take that paper layer from here, and I've got a little mark so that I know which way up the script is, and I want to come across the top here like so. Not all the way across. I'm going to leave a slight little gap here at this side, and then I just need to alter my stamping platform there to address the rubber stamp. So we'll pick that up with this. I'm going to stay with the darker of the two greens. It's slightly darker, the Shabby Shutters. You can just see where we've got that little bit here. You can see the difference. It will show up darker when we stamp. So where are we? We need it coming pretty much all the way across. So we'll get a nice generous coating on here. And this again, it's all about building up those layers and just creating some interest for the background. So that's going to be the first one. I'll bring my little pressure tool in, give it a nice press. And you'll be able to see now that we've got a little bit more definition going on down here. So again, I'm just going to take any surplus off so that I can reposition the stamp. And I'm going to bring that stamp now. Let's just move some of these bits and pieces so that we've got a bit of space. Put the lid on the glue jam. And what I want to do is actually bring the stamp down to the bottom. But I'm going to come at it from the other side now, like so. So yeah, we'll get those magnets in place just to hold it in place. Pick up the stamp. And this time I want to go on the other part of it, so we're going to go this way. So give it a good colour, and then the tapping just to coat it with that ink. And because of the opacity of the oxide inks, they are quite a nice one to stamp with. So again, we'll just apply a little bit of pressure with that pressure tool, and it has transferred those across. So again, very subtle. It didn't need to be anything sort of in your face. It is going to be a background when all said and done. So we will just give that now, treat my stamp to a little bit of water there, and just a quick clean. And that's usually about as much as they get for now, unless I need to give them. Sometimes I'll get the stamp cleaner out and give them a proper clean, but that's as good as that one's actually going to get for now. So I'll sort that one out in a little while. And then I've also got this little tiny splat. Little colour splat, so we're going to use that on a block, and I'm just going to go straight into the design here now. So we will start up at the top here. I'm going to leave it in the platform just so that I've got a little bit of foam in here, which just absorbs a bit of the pressure. And I'm just going to go in certain places, and very, very random. I don't want to think about it too much. Turning the stamp round as we go. I've got quite a big white space here, so we'll land in that one. Again, off this edge, come across the edge of the card, and then it looks as if it's been cut from a larger piece. I'll go in the middle there, and then I'll just turn it round slightly. That's why I have the piece of white paper in there, just to catch any excess ink. I've managed to get a bit on there, but it comes straight off. And then again, I want to bring, we'll turn it round. Now then, I've been very heavy-handed. I'll just get rid of the excess ink off there. Into the top there. And I think we'll have one more just on that side. That's all I want to do, just to create that sort of random area of design. So that's going to be my monochromatic panel that we're going to work on. Put that ink away now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start and chop into this. I want to chop it up to create these pieces. And all I've done is just go at a different angle to work into it. So I'm just going to grab my guillotine here from the side. And all we're going to do is literally, I'm not really going to think about this too much. I want to keep a straight edge to work with at the bottom. So I'm just literally going to pop it in at an angle and take a piece off. Okay. And then I'm going to turn it the other way. So I'm going to have the smaller piece at this side. And I am just going to take, let's have a look, we'll go about there. Okay. And then I want to keep these in order so that I know what the flow of the design was. So then I'm going to come with a slightly wider piece at that side again, like this. So I'm just going to pop these to one side. So then we want the narrower edge at that side, like, that's going to be too straight. I don't want those edges to be straight until I get back up to the top. And then that last one, I'm going to leave that bit for a second and see how high up, because obviously now I'm going to stretch this out. It's not going to fit as exact on here. So I'm just going to see where I've got to with them. I've left a little border. So these are going to sit on here with a little white, a little cream border and a little gap in between like so. So because I'm spacing them out slightly, they're going to come higher up the card than what the original piece did. So I can see there. So now that I've got those lined up, I'm going to go with a slightly wider piece again at that side, like so. And then we just want a little skinny bit, but with a straight edge. So I'm just going to flip that over and probably just guesstimate about there. There we go, we can make that work. So pop that to one side. I've got a little tiny piece left because obviously stretching it out, it's just got a bit that we're not going to need now. And then what I wanted to do again now was just emphasize the edges of these pieces. So I'm going to flick over to that Spectrum Noir ink and you can see it just defines each piece that little bit better. You know what I'm like with my inks. So again, I've kept it tone on tone. We've still got that monochromatic feel to it. And I'm just going to go around each one of those pieces. That's why I like these particular inks, because of the sponge pad. They're almost like a huge ink applicator. So I often take them straight to my card and just do the edging. It's a very quick, easy way of adding ink to the edges without having to have lots of different sponge applicators. And I do use the ink applicators with the sponges on, but just for something like this I find it just as easy to just pop round the edges with the ink pad, and it literally takes a few seconds. So there we go. And then we're going to get those positioned in place. So let's have a look. I'm going to use my quick grab glue, my PVA glue for this, and we're going to start at the bottom here. Add a little bit of the glue, and the only reason I haven't used the all-purpose glue is that it does take a little bit longer to dry than this one. And then I'm just going to visualize the same border all the way around those three sides, and then I've got a little bit of wax paper that I'm just going to use to press that down. Once you've got that first one in situ with the borders right, it's quite easy then to get the next ones in place. So I just want to leave about the same width as the border around the outside now in between those layers. So again, I want to visualize the two sides and make sure that we're running straight here. and I want to try and make sure that I've got around about the same kind of gap between them. And then once I'm happy, give it a nice press down. And then we're just going to work our way up the card. So this is why it was important to keep them in the right order, so that I know it's a little bit like pieces of a jigsaw that are going to fit back together. So this one now, again, I'm just going to look at that left hand side there and make sure I'm straight. I want around about the same kind of gap. It doesn't matter if it's not perfect. And then we've got this one to go in. And this is going to be the background for my card. I just thought we'd work with the inks. I've done a few with the scrap papers and the cardstock recently, so I thought I would just get the inks out again today. So again, I'm just visualizing those edges, trying to keep a similar kind of amount of space. Press it down, and then we should have room to fit. Can always trim that panel if I need to. They look as if they're going to fit in there okay. If for any reason you get to the top and you've got an uneven border, you can always trim that matte layer so that you've got borders that match. So if you had, for example, got this far and you've got an uneven part at the top, just trim it down. Okay. And that one's going to carry on. Just trying to keep it nice and straight down each side, as straight as I can by just using, you know, my eye. And then that last one is just going to sit nicely in the top there. We've got a little bit of an uneven border going on there. I might just have to leave a little bit of a bigger gap at the top there. I think that last one that I sort of guesstimated could have done with just being a bit wider. But I'm okay with that. I want that top edge to be straight, so I need to make sure here that I have got as straight as I can be. So it's a slightly bit wider there, but I'm not too worried about that. And I have got that little tiny bit more there than what I need. So I'm just going to bring my trimmer back in, and I'm just going to take a sliver off that edge so that it matches the rest of the design there. So it's an easy fix if you do get to the top and you've got a little bit more left than what you wanted. So this is actually going to sit onto my card blank like so. And you can see where we're building up that monochromatic theme now. Now, I did actually put some tape on the back of here just to remind me that I had added some ribbon. So again, I've been through my stash and I've had a look at what I'd got that sort of fit in with that same colour tone. And I've just got a nice piece of satin ribbon, and we're literally going to pop that around the back before I stick this in place. So I've just used a little bit of red line tape. And I'm literally going to line this up on here, and I'm just going to prop that round the back, and then make sure that we can be as straight as we can be here, you know. And if you are particular about anything like that, which I can be, then I can just have a look here. I've got 2 1/8 at that side and the 2 1/8 at that side, and then wrap that round onto the back. So that's going to add an extra little bit of texture and dimension to our design. And then now we can come back to that glue and pop this in place. So I'm going to stay with that all-purpose glue this time for the layers. It will help secure the ribbon as well. I'm going to make sure I've got some on the ribbon, and we're going to pop that straight on the top. Make sure we're opening the right way and our text is reading the right way as well. If you don't have anything on there that's directional, then obviously it doesn't matter which way up it goes, but obviously my script needed to be reading the right way there. So that's the bulk of the actual design. I've just got that little bit spare there. You know, you could use this to decorate. I often decorate the inside, so you could incorporate that in there if you wish. And then excuse me, I've got some elements pre-done for the decoration here. Just need some ink pads, and I've got some buttons just as an extra embellishment here. So this is a really old set of dies produced by Crafters Companion under the Gemini brand, and they were circle sentiments, and they have been out a long time, but when they brought these out I absolutely fell in love with them, and to be honest it's nice to be able to get some of this back out to use now. So this one's the thank you. They did lots of different greetings. Chose the thank you one, and I've cut the outside piece so you get different pieces in here. So this is the outside one that's cut that little circle with the thank you on it there. That's going to go over, whoops, the top of here like so to create my my greeting. And then inside here there are some nesting layers which I've used as well. So I've carried on with the craft cord with the little scalloped one. That's going to sit with just a tiny gap so I can still see that background through it. And then I've also used the inside one, which is a nice little stitch circle, to create my piece for my topper. You can see there. And then all of these, if you have these in your stash, if you want to get them, dig them out, they've all came with a different sort of stamped icon here. So this one had the little flower in it, and I've just stamped that out, and I've kept with the green. And I was colouring it in thinking, not seen many green flowers, Jan, out there. A lot of the foliage is green, but I've not seen many green flowers. And then looked up on my shelf, and I've got some little cactus up on my shelf, and thought, do you know what? It just looks like one of the cactus that I've got here. So yeah, I'm okay with the green. I can live with the green. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop all those in place first. So on the back of the thank you, again, you know, you can put double-sided adhesive on these. You could put your dot runner. I am a wet glue girl. I like to use my wet glue when I can. And I just think you get the longevity of the stick and you get time to move things around. So I'm just going to every so often pop a little dot of glue on those letters just to make sure that they're all anchored in place. And then we're going to stick this one to the background there. So I've just gone all the way around. Each letter's got a little bit of something on it. And then this one's going to sit. I'm going to have the thank you so that you can read that up at the top there. So literally about there. And again, I'm going to use that wax paper because it allows you to apply the pressure without getting covered in glue. And then I'm going to pop my acrylic block on there just to add some weight to it while we just work with this bit. So what I wanted to do was actually raise this up on some foam pads. So again, I've just got one or two here. I think we just need probably 3 on the back there to elevate this, just that little bit. You could put them behind this one if you want, or you could keep it all flat. You know, there's no hard and fast rule about this. I just wanted that little bit of elevation. So we take those backers off, and then I can add this to my little nesting circle here now. And again, I always add, no matter how good the foam pads are, I always add that little bit of wet glue just for insurance. And then we're going to pop this one in the centre of here. So I'm just going to get that sat in the centre, give that a press. And then this one should have done its job now. We can move that out of the way. And this one's now going to sit just inside like so. So all those greens toning in beautifully together. And because I'm going over different surfaces with the ink and the ribbon, I'm just going to stay with that PVA glue. It does stick to pretty much anything. So plenty on the back there so that it can soak into that design. And then we're going to position this with the little leaves on that right hand side. And I've just coloured this in with my alcohol markers. So I stamped it with alcohol marker friendly ink, and then I used a couple of greens and a muted brown. So I've actually got a dull green, an alpine green, which I coloured the little flower in, and then a muted brown for the leaves there to pick up the craft card. So these are actually my tri-blend alcohol markers if you're wanting to use those. The yellow one on the original design was my golden yellow. So all the tri-blend markers, they're my go-to for alcohol markers. and we've got that detail in there. And then the last thing that I did was have a look through the button stash. I've got a couple of little buttons, and I've just put some red line tape on the back of these, and I'm just going to go as an extra piece at the bottom here with a couple of buttons just to offset that sentiment. So again, I've got a little tiny piece of red line tape on the back of this one. You could use hot glue if you preferred at this point. And I'm going to pop that one, so just 2 tones of the green again, pop that one higher up. Okay, so you can see there we've got our finished design, and just close those glues off so that they don't dry out. And we've got that lovely monochromatic theme in the greens there. If I bring the original one back in, the only addition that added, of course, you're getting to know me by now, I've just got some of the little tiny I use the little dewdrops purely because these are clear and obviously take on the colour of whatever you're going to put them on, so it's still kept in that theme. So again, all optional, but I just like to draw your eye across the design there. So 2 different ones in that monochromatic theme, showing you how we've worked on that today. And then what I did do was go back through, because this is I do like that monochromatic theme. It's something that I quite often use without even realizing that I've used it. So I thought I'll go back through one or 2 of the designs that we've already done, and just bring you 1 or 2 back in to show you how you can incorporate. So going back right to the beginning of our Technique Tuesday designs, we did the resist emboss technique. Again, you've got that lovely monochromatic theme. You know, you've got the green with the white, tiny bit of black in the stamped sentiment and the matte layer there, just as a contrast so that you get that nice pop of colour. Also, I think this one was part of the Colour Theory series. This was the no, I think this may have been Technique Tuesday as well. I'm not sure, but again, you know, you've got that gradient of all those lovely orange yellows in there, creating that monochromatic scheme. This was a favourite of mine, I must admit, where we did, this was a Technique Tuesday. This was using our washi tape, and I couldn't resist trying it. I did it in the black for the video, but I couldn't resist trying it in the pink. So again, both of these monochromatic, you know, this one, the black features on the white. This one, you've got all the pinks on the white. So you've got those 2 there as well. Last week when I did the split complementary, if you remember, if you watched that video, I went rogue right at the end because they didn't actually fit the theme of split complementary, but I couldn't resist trying it in those neutral shades, and because of that it made it monochromatic again with those tones of brown. So that was a different one again. And then the last one, this was a Technique Tuesday, just using the shades of teal. So again, you know, lots and lots of different variation there of how you can use that monochromatic scheme. And it's probably a love-hate. Some people like the variation in colour. Some people are okay with that, you know, sort of use of single colour. And as I say, I find myself working with this theme quite a lot. I do like that sort of gradients of one colour. So I hope you've enjoyed that today. I've had some really positive feedback on this particular series of the Colour Theory, so I'm glad you are enjoying it. Several of you have had a go at some of the designs that I've done. If you want to show me those designs, you can find me at JB Crafts on Facebook, so you can pop your projects under the respective video links, and I will get to see them there. So thank you for those of you that have been enjoying them and having a go. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. It does help with the channel, and if you haven't subscribed yet, maybe you might consider that today as well and become one of my subscribers if you'd like to see future videos. So thank you very much for joining me today, and I will be back very soon with my next video. So bye bye for now.